another episode. This time we're going to be talking free agency, winners and losers. A lot to unpack, even though we did a full episode last time. Um, we still have a lot to talk about on that front, especially now that the draft is pretty much, I mean, it's been draft season all year long for uh, evaluators and especially someone like myself who's uh, pursuing a career in that. And I know Mark does a lot of evaluation on the draft too. But now that we're in this portion of the off season, there is going to be a lot of with what's just happened and transpired over the past couple of weeks. There's going to be a lot of residual from that in what we're going to see in the draft. But we're going to kind of probably cap off the free agency topic on the show this week with winners and losers. Like I said, Dillon Jewett, you can find me at DJ Scouting on X. You can find Mark Brandt
At Mark Brandt __ on Twitter.
__ on Twitter. Ayush, you can find Ayush Kasaju at
Two biscuits without the I and with a Z.
without the I and with the Z. Don't forget that.
Yep.
It's important. And then you can find Pierce Allen at
The Pierce E. Allen on X, capital T P N E N A. So
okay.
yeah.
Sweet. So, and I've said in the past, but we live stream on X, we live stream on YouTube, and then we live stream on Twitch. And do we live stream on anything else? I think that's it. And then we just post on Apple and Spotify afterwards. You can find our YouTube, by the way, because it's like, dude, it's like some hidden backdoor. Like I had to do some voodoo stuff to even find it because it gets literally no views. It's like so hidden in the algorithm. We're working on that. But you can find the War Room at the War Room Football on YouTube. Subscribe, like, and share whatever it takes. We would love that. Our viewership has been hitting all-time highs lately, so we appreciate all you guys that listen. We're starting to hit roughly about like 100 viewers / listeners on a pretty on a episode by episode basis, so we appreciate you guys for that. But yeah, like I said, we're going to be talking winners and losers right after the introduction. So this is the first time that all four of us have been on the pod and it's actually the first time even like any of the original three have been on the pod in like a month or two because I was out for like 2 or 3 episodes, and it was Ayush and Pierce, and then I think, if I'm not mistaken, Pierce, did we have one where it was just you and me? Or was that?
I think so.
Okay, I think, yeah, because I think we had one. I feel like we had one where it was just you and me, and then Ayush was Mr. Worldwide. He was going everywhere and
out of country.
And then and I want to ask you about that in a second, Ayush. And then he was gone for a couple episodes. Marc was started last week with us, and then now we finally have all of us, and it was actually kind of like worrisome for me for a second because I leave out of town for a job in South Dakota next or tomorrow. So I wasn't sure if it was going to get moved up a day, but so yeah, we're all back in the War Room here to hash out our opinions on free agency, or closing opinions, like I said. But Ayush, what is it like being back in America?
Bro,
Tell us.
I'm jet lagged right now, bro. I'm tired. It's I think a little past midnight in Nepal right now, so I'm still getting used to the timing a little bit. I've been flying for basically the past 2 days. I left Nepal 6 p.m. over there, and it was a 5-hour flight to Doha.
Okay.
and then it was a 11-hour layover in Doha. So we got
Oh,
luckily the
oh,
airlines gave us a hotel for free, which is nice.
yeah.
So we chilled at
Good
the
deal.
hotel for a bit. Yeah. And then after that, it was a 16-hour flight from Doha to Houston.
Oh gosh.
Um, and then Houston was a 4-hour layover. We had to go through customs there and all that. And then from Houston to Dallas, it was like an hour flight. So that wasn't as bad, but it was in total about 37 hours, I think, if that adds up correctly, of just traveling. But Nepal was so much fun. Got to see a whole bunch of family um, that I haven't seen. I haven't been there since 2018, so it's been a good bit of time since I've been back there. So fun times. Got to see family. Got to see cousins that I have never met before that I know now. So overall, really good time.
Dude, that's a wild commute. Like
Yeah,
so I went to Italy like a couple years back, and it was like a 10-hour flight or whatever. Uh and then we had like a layover. So from Italy, it was a 10-hour flight, had a layover in Atlanta for like 3 hours, and then it was another like 2-hour flight from Atlanta to DFW. And
uh,
I thought that was bad. You literally laughed me like that's like three times in
yeah.
terms of time frame. So I'm never
It's
gonna complain about that experience ever again.
I will say
That
that
is a crazy
the
commute.
the planes are nice, so it's not as bad as it could be. It's not like it's Frontier
Um,
Airlines all the way there, but
yeah,
Oh,
if it was, I might kill myself. But Qatar is a pretty good airline, so shout out to Qatar. The food is kind of mid, but you can't expect too much.
yeah,
But overall, I mean, it was a really fun trip. 2 weeks is honestly not enough for going that far, but my sister had to go back to school and
mm,
all that, so you get what you can.
yeah. And of course you were keeping up with every move in free agency.
But
Bro
it's
was watching every minute and every second of the War Room podcast here
yeah,
being recorded live in America.
yep.
Hashtag America. And
I'm the first international viewer of the War
for
Room.
there you boom, bang.
So
Well, yeah. So we get our first international viewer back in the War Room. So, okay. Let's get this thing going. Since you came a long way, we'll let you go first. But what we're gonna do, just for all the listeners, we're basically just gonna go in a circle. We're just gonna share a winner. We'll have a little bit of discourse, a little bit of dialogue on each winner. There's a couple here where we'll play devil's advocate. We'll have a little bit of dialogue on it, and then I guess we'll gauge how much time we got. But if uh, if all goes well, hopefully we each share two winners, two losers, and then yeah, we'll be all set. So, but Ayush, fire away with your first winner.
yeah, so the first one um, I gotta say, unfortunately, is the Minnesota Vikings. I think
Bro
they've
said
done some really good
unfortunately.
things. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna say unfortunately, bro. I mean,
Gosh.
I can't have the toughest division in football getting potentially tougher, especially with the
Yeah.
Lions doing their thing and
Yeah.
whatever. But
And they're
um,
complaining about having a tough division apparently.
yeah,
Just
exactly.
just
So
an
we'll see.
FYI for everyone, the Lions were like trying to work on uh, a rule change basically where it's the playoffs are kind of set up like the NBA where it doesn't matter the division winner. It's kind of like the team with the best record gets the highest seed, which in my opinion is trash because that takes away the value of divisional contests
Mhm.
and rivalries. But we'll probably have an episode about that in the future. But Ayush, carry on.
Yeah, I think they've done some really good things. They upgraded their O line. Will Fries and Ryan Kelly from the Colts, I think, are really two good additions. Even though they lost Garrett Bradbury, I think Ryan Kelly is a slight upgrade um, over him. Outside of that, I mean, you lost Darnold. I mean, but hopefully McCarthy is your guy, which I think they have plenty of trust in him. And after drafting him 10th last year and giving him some time to kind of just work in that number 2 role. Even though he was injured all season, it was still a good learning experience for him that he'll probably take into the season. And then you add Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, Byron Murphy stays. You lose Stephon Gilmore, which is, I think, a good thing because he got sunned by Romeo Dobbs every single time they went against each other. Let's see. Just looking through the list right here. Eric Wilson, who came from the Packers. Eric Wilson, I think, was really good for the Packers. Special teams guy that was really underrated for us. And I think he'll be a good addition there. And Rondell Moore, my short king, joins the Vikings as well. So I got to support every short king that I can. And so I think that'll be a good little utility piece for them. I don't know how did they lose. What's the number 3 guy? Naylor? No, Naylor's still there. So Ronald Moore will probably be 4 or 5 somewhere in the depth.
There was another guy, right? Who was it? He was like this C tier type guy.
KJ Osborne?
No. Oh yeah, KJ Osborne. Where he left, right?
I think he left
He got
before this past year.
Yeah.
Oh, he left last year?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You might
he
be
was on
thinking
the
about
team.
Trent
Oh.
Sherfield.
No.
Could be sure.
No.
No.
It was I was thinking of Osborne.
No.
I think Osborne went to the Page. No,
He got traded
He's
to
somewhere.
the Patriots
it was the
this
Patriots.
past offseason. Resigned there. I can't remember.
He
what-
did?
Yeah.
Yeah,
then
he was on.
They
that
just
last
dude,
year.
they just love their like 3rd and 4th string caliber wide receivers. They hoard them, dude. I swear.
Mhm.
Same
then
with
he-
Dallas, but we
Yeah.
at least we have CD Lamb, but yeah.
Yeah, he got cut or traded in the middle of the season. It was to Washington he went. So
Really.
I don't know if he did that much. Because they got some depth there. But yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Are you
But yeah, overall,
is Rondell Moore your like hero?
he is my hero, bro. He's
You can't look up to. Well, I will say you can't look up to him,
he's at
which
my
so
eye
that's
level.
good.
Bro.
That's good.
Yeah,
You can see him eye to eye.
he's literally. I think he's He's not exactly my measure. He's probably like 40 pounds heavier than me. But I mean, even coming out of the draft, I was like 5'7". He's probably like 180, 170, something like that.
I was like, he's just like me for real.
Yeah, he aspired. He showed me that I have a chance to still make the league. You know, I said I got to put on 40 pounds, but I have a chance. You know, so.
Do you think
thank you,
you'll like?
Rondell Moore?
Do you think you could go back to school and like be a walk on at UT? They're losing. They're losing Matthew Golden and Isaiah Bond. You could be
Yeah,
like their next like Z.
I'm gonna start up the football team at UT Dallas. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be
Okay.
the first player to ever be at UT.
Okay,
Dallas.
so you're not moving.
then-
You're not moving to Austin.
No,
you're gonna stay in Dallas?
I'm sticking with
Okay.
my UTD comments.
That's
bro.
valid. Well, you can
Which-
make the team
which
at
game?
UNT.
That's true too. Yeah, UNT. I probably a good chance at UNT. They got nobody there, so.
Yeah. The last like
But yeah.
notable guy that played receiver that was like Jalen Darden.
Yeah,
So,
I thought you were gonna say the last notable guy was gonna be like me and Joe Green or something.
yeah.
But I don't know.
I mean, if we're really talking like actual like notable guy, like beyond just like a 7th round type guy, then I think that was like the last
Joe
decent.
Green was the
someone.
last like.
I don't think there was like an actual like day 1 or day 2 draft pick in the past like 30 years probably.
Maybe not.
Yeah, that's a rough one. You're gonna have to go deep in the bag to sum up all that.
Yeah. ChatGPT, they probably know. I call
They probably
ChatGPT
do.
Chad. They're like that's like my homie now. So okay.
Bro.
Okay, Mark. Give us your first winner.
Yeah, so for me, my first winner, and I think they were a big winner, probably should be talked about a little more just in general. The Arizona Cardinals definitely exceeded expectations last year, just overall as a team. And I think they made some key additions in this offseason, signing Josh Sweat, who has familiarity with Jonathan Gannon. I think that's big time for them. Dalvin Tomlinson, who I've always liked a lot. Obviously, going from the Giants, I'm able to watch them a lot because I'm in Jersey. And I liked what I saw from him. So I think that helps with their depth and definitely another interior starter if they really need him to be. Some linebacker depth in there, and bringing in Jacoby Brissett, who's a solid backup, because we know Kyler Murray has some trouble staying healthy from time to time. So you've got a guy who has experience and can be plugged in there. You're not relying on Clayton Tune to win you games if Kyler Murray goes down. So yeah, I like what they did. I think there's a chance for them to maybe make some noise in the NFC West, just with some questions around other teams. Obviously, the Rams are my heavy favorite, but the Cardinals are a young team who have gotten veteran players where they need them. So I think that they have a solid shot of making some noise.
Yeah, I feel like they're always like a hit or miss team.
Yeah,
They're always
definitely.
like they're always a team where you can sit there and like you can be like, okay, I can envision them being a playoff team. I don't think it's gonna happen, but it's like it's on the table for them.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they've been getting better under Jonathan Gannon season by season. So that's really all you can ask for is just
yeah.
exponential growth, basically, with him.
And I will say Dallas took Clay Adams from them. He was their offensive line coach. Now he's the Cowboys OC, and all the Cardinals had the fans have to say is amazing things about this guy.
Yeah.
And he took it like if you look at this O line, and I don't think so. Right now it's Paris Johnson, Evan Brown, Froholt. I'm not even saying his first name. It's like Hajalte or something.
I think you nailed it.
Did I?
I think so.
What?
I'm pretty sure.
Let me cook. Isaiah Adams and Jonah Williams. And I think they lost Will Hernandez, but dude, you look at that, that's horrible. That is a bad group, but he helped them elevate from a group that should have been one of if not the worst groups in the league to they were actually a average, you could argue above average group last year. So that's a big loss, but I wonder if he did enough to be like, okay, I did what I could do. I maxed out a bunch of these guys. I'm sure Paris Johnson has a lot of juice left. He's like, I maxed out what I could do here. And now look, you guys have a bunch of guys. And if you guys want to go up, you guys can easily go and draft and upgrade, but they won't because the Cardinals, it feels like the Cardinals are allergic to drafting offensive linemen at times. Paris Johnson was a anomaly for them, but because I feel like there was like a stretch of like 5 years where I'm like every single mock draft, I do like 3 mock drafts a year. I was like offensive lineman first round, offensive lineman every single year, and I was like, okay, when are you going to draft an offensive lineman?
That's how I feel about the 49ers.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, him leaving was a big deal, but I think they did a good job helping out.
Yeah, and the new regime with what is it? It's Monty Ossenfort, who's the current GM, and him and Gannon. They definitely probably prioritize building those trenches. So it's a lot different from the philosophy that their past GM
Kingsbury and I can't remember his name.
He was not very popular.
Yeah. Okay. So. All right, Pierce, first winner.
I'm gonna say the Washington Commanders, just building on their
100%.
already pretty darn good football team that made the NFC Championship game, which I believe nobody expected.
Yeah, no one.
Especially under first-year quarterback Jaden Daniels, and now they got him some help. Trading for Deebo Samuel, getting him for honestly, yes, he still might be a shell of his former self for what he was 3 years ago. But using only a 5th-round pick to get that, yes, it's a lot of money to pay for him, but a 5th-round pick to get a guy who still, I think, has plenty of juice left for Jane Daniels to have another option not named Terry McLaurin, and then, adding some smaller pieces around getting.
Well, did you say Tunsil?
Yeah, trading for Larry Tunsil is a big one.
And just going to throw this out there. If I'm not mistaken, Sam Cosmi missed a lot of time last year. He'll be back, and that is a big deal. People sometimes forget about him, but he's a really good player. So you get a lot of help coming.
There are a lot, yeah. I mean, I would say maybe just a sneaky pickup. They signed Michael Gallup out after he retired. I feel like if anybody is going to probably get anything out of him, It might be Dan Quinn, just for attitude wise, just a history of him being in
Mm.
Dallas when Michael Gallup was still there. Maybe Gallup has fresher legs after taking a year or two off from football. But only time will tell. I mean, but I think Washington is the. I mean, other than the Eagles, they could be right there with them. Unlike Dak being delusional, saying we're not that far from Philly, which to me was
Well,
just complete
hey,
rubbish.
I will say Philly lost a lot of pieces, so we're not
Okay.
as far from Philly.
Okay.
Well, I'll say that. Not as far, but it's a large gap to fill.
But yeah, I feel like Washington, they can use whatever draft pick they have in the first round now to just say, okay, where do we need improvement the most? Like they literally can. I think I've said this multiple times. Just spin a wheel and see what you land on, and go, okay, we can make that work. you know.
Okay, on to me. The Chicago Bears brought in a lot of help for Caleb Williams, who is my winner for my first winner here. So Caleb Williams gets basically an entirely revamped interior offensive line. Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, and then with the fact that you didn't really lose anyone, you still have Darnell Wright, you still have Braxton Jones. That entire offensive line went from trash. Well, I guess you lost Tevin Jenkins, but you upgraded. Um, it went from trash to a formidable offensive line that on paper kind of looks slightly above average. The interior is really good. I think those offensive tackles still need to develop. Darnell Wright has a lot of upside. Braxton Jones is still a little bit of a work in progress. I think he was kind of like the Terrence Steele situation with Dallas, where he had one really good year. You give him a contract, and he isn't quite what you want him to be, but he still has maybe an opportunity to become the guy. But he's on thin ice. This year needs to be really good for him, especially given the fact that you have a second-year quarterback, you have a brand new coach, a lot on the line here. So, and the team has been rebuilt. But you do that, you basically substitute Keenan Allen for Devin Duvernay and Olamide Zaccheaus. So you bring in a couple of depth guys. You still have Roma Dunze and DJ Moore. Roma Dunze should be able to take off this year. I think given the fact that now Caleb will be actually able to go through progressions instead of running for his life, I think Adunze is going to become a major benefactor of that. And I have to assume that Ben Johnson is going to want some running backs. And I feel like this is going to be a team that if Gentie's there at 10, I would say there's a 50-50 odds there. And I would probably favor that they go get Genty if he's there at 10. And then if Genty isn't there, you honestly, I could see them pulling the parachute, going back, getting Omari and Hampton, or you wait till day 2, and there's gonna be a lot of options there as well. Caleb Johnson, maybe Trey Anderson, maybe Judkins are gonna be there. But I think they're going to continue to bolster this running back room, and then they're going to continue to build around Caleb Williams. The defense is in a decent spot right now. I think this defense is going to be a good defense again next year. And yeah, now you're going to be able to have a more stable situation, a significantly more stable situation. You have Dennis Allen at DC, obviously Ben Johnson at head coach. Eberflus is out the door to be the DC of Dallas. I've mentioned on this podcast before, but I think Eberflus is a very much big time X's and O's type of guys. He knows the game. He's great at that, but in terms of leadership, making the team rally and become a unified unit, he's not. I've listened. I guess it's hard to say like, oh yeah, I've listened to a couple of his conferences, media conferences, and I don't like the guy. But I've listened to a couple of his media conferences, and I just don't like the way he talks. I don't like the way that he delivers his point. And in my opinion, I can see that as someone that's not going to be able to unify a locker room. So I think now that he's out the door, you have Ben Johnson in there, who is a big time culture guy. Obviously, he's an X's and O's guy too. But you're able to really make this team both intelligent in terms of the playbook, and you're able to make them a big time culture and locker room team. And I think a lot of this just depends on, and this is so easy to say, it depends on if the quarterback's going to take off or not. And if your quarterback is able to play good football, this is going to be a playoff team. I'll say, I mean, I think that's pretty simple. If Caleb's going to go out there and throw 25 touchdowns, only throw 8 picks, with the roster that they have built around him, they will do the rest. And this will be a playoff team that is going to be 10-7, but it depends on that quarterback play. So hopefully they continue to build around him there.
Yeah, I mean, it is going to be a little rough, especially in that division, like Ayush was talking about. Obviously, him being a Packers fan, and with the Vikings increasingly getting better, the Packers still being pretty consistent.
Yeah.
It is going to be rough for them, and I do have a bit of concern with the offensive line, just in terms of the chemistry, because it's
Yeah.
basically entirely new in that interior.
Mhm.
It's 3 new starters at left guard, center, right guard. So the chemistry does concern me, because we know it takes offensive lines a bit of time to gel over a season, and even might take a year or two. But something that kind of alleviates that concern for me is the fact that they brought in all vets, right? Joe
Yeah.
Tooney is going to help with that. He's a really smart player. Obviously, we saw
He'll
him
be the leader of that O-line.
exactly. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a captain, like,
Oh, yeah.
instantly next year. But
Yeah.
so him being there definitely helps alleviate that concern. Jonah Jackson, who's had some up and down times, but still a vet. He's got experience. Obviously, played on the Lions under Ben Johnson just 2 years ago. So it's not a bad get for them. And then obviously Drew Dahlman was the best center in free agency, and they got a deal there, and he's talented. So I do think that it's going to be good for them, but just a little concern with the chemistry.
Yeah, and worth noting, the most notable name on this O-line is one of the best actors, Bill Murray. You know that? He's a backup left guard on their depth chart. Bill Murray.
They got Garfield there.
Don't believe me? Go see it yourself. And he went to William and Mary, 6'4", 307. So
It's like it's the same school current tackle prospect Charles Grant went to.
yeah,
William and Mary, guys, look at that. They'll put offensive linemen in the NFL.
Exactly. So, most important pull there. Bill Murray is on has officially signed a contract with the Chicago Bears, and will carry that offense.
Also, wouldn't be surprised if at 10 they go tackle too. I wouldn't be shocked.
I think anything's on the table with Ben Johnson. He doesn't. I don't think he gives a crap who's. I don't think he gives a crap who's currently on the depth chart. It could be an all-star type of offensive line. He'll probably root for getting an offensive lineman early. So, but yeah, it would surprise me if they don't get out of rounds like day 2 without an offensive lineman.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because they could use anyone. And we said earlier, there's a lot of vets on that interior too. So Thuney's what, 32? Is he that old now? 32?
Something like that.
So he might not even be. He might be someone that's like, okay, help us develop this offensive line in terms of leadership and unification. So, but all right, we're gonna try to fire these through a little bit quicker. We're at the half-hour mark. So, losers, starting with Ayush. First loser.
My first loser, I said, were just the veteran wide receivers in free agency right now. I mean, as a whole. Let me pull up the list real quick. Well, guys like Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett don't have teams, and I'm not sure. Most of them will probably find a spot at some point, but I mean, they're not. They're obviously looking for money that they're not going to get, and I mean, I don't even know. I honestly don't know why that some of these guys aren't being signed. I know they're like all 30 plus, but I honestly thought that the Packers would sign one of these guys, but they instead went with NFL legend McCole Hardman, which we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I mean, I think there's just I don't really know why these guys aren't being signed, to be completely honest. It's got to be probably because of how much money they're asking for. But I mean, these are guys that probably still have plenty of gas. I mean, Diggs, I know he got hurt during the season, but he probably still has a good 800-yard season in him. Keenan Allen,
Yeah.
I think, might be a little washed. He's probably around a 600-yard guy at this point. Tyler Lockett, I think, can still be an 800-yard guy as well. Amari Cooper, I think, depends on the spot, can be really good. I'm just like going down. Deontay Johnson's a bum. Um, I'm just kind of going down this list.
Hey, if we're really honest, I like the honesty.
I mean, I don't like him at all. But yeah, I think those are like those big guys that should be going somewhere, aren't going somewhere, and I think until those prices go down, they're not really going to go anywhere. But whoever does get them is going to get a steal because these are guys that have plenty of gas left in the tank.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of that. A lot of that is the price combined with just how much wide receiver talent enters the league every year because it's such a deep position in the league entirely. So like, you can kind of fill a hole in the draft in any round.
That's very true.
All right, Mark, or I don't remember which order we did, but whoever, Mark, yeah, what's your next loser or your first loser?
So my first loser, sorry boys, Pierce and Dillon, but I'm gonna go with the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I'll preface this by saying I like some of the moves they made. I'm a big fan of the Jack Sanborn signing. Got him for cheap, and he could start. I don't see why he can't start. And obviously, as a Broncos fan, big Javonte Williams guy. Unfortunately, it didn't work out there when he blew his knee out. But look, he might find a new sign of life in Dallas. And we know Dallas doesn't go crazy in free agency signings most of the time. I think Dante Fowler Jr. is their first one over $6 million per year in I don't remember how many years it was, but it's just a lot of the guys they lost, man. I mean, DeMarcus Lawrence, a staple in Dallas. Jordan Lewis was a really solid nickel corner. Brandon Cooks, who I like a lot still. And some depth guys like Chauncey Golston, Chuma Edoga, Cooper Rush, obviously Cowboys legend, and even Dowdle, who I wanted as a Broncos fan, honestly. They just lost a lot of guys who helped their team out, and they did make a decent amount of signings, but it's just I don't know how much it puts them over that hump, and they're kind of just still in that middling level, especially in a division that's only getting tougher with the Commanders now rising.
So, I'm going to play devil's advocate here because in general, I'm really so I'm a Cowboys fan, but I'm not your like typical like this is our year type of Cowboys fan. I feel I'm a very conscious Cowboys fan. I'm neutral. I understand what we do right. I understand what we do wrong. I'm not going to lie. I think the Cowboys did a fantastic job in the free agency, and here's why. So the problem with this team has never been the stars. If you compare this team in terms of these stars to any other team, this is a team that has a long list of top guys. You have your CeeDee Lamb, you have Micah Parsons. I think those are like the guys, and then I think your B tier type guys are Dak, Tyler Smith, Deron Bland, Trayvon Diggs. There's a long list of capable guys on this team as well, and I think Dante Fowler probably slots back into that. He's coming off at an 11 sack season. And then Overshown had a good year before his injury. The problem with this team has been, or especially last year, has been the backups. The depth on this team was a mess, and you rebuilt a lot of the depth. Oh, and I forgot Osa Odigizua is B tier, guys. But you rebuild the depth on this team you re-signed Osa. The defensive line in particular, you bring in Solomon Thomas. I like that deal. A good depth guy that's not supposed to be a starter. You bring in forgot his name. Saints first round pick failed.
Peyton Turner.
Peyton Turner, good all around guy. Not a special type of guy, but this is someone that he's going to be 5th or 6th on our depth chart at the edge rusher position. That's a good 5th or 6th. He's going to go in. He can do it. He's developing as a pass rusher still, but he's a formidable enough run defender. One other theme with the defensive line. Dante Fowler took a jump as a run defender last year with the Commanders. You bring in Peyton Turner, who is a decent run defender, which is what he was in college as well. And Micah Parsons is a good run defender. I think they worked a lot on the run defense aspect of this team. And then linebackers, you bring in you. I think you mentioned Sanborn. I actually love that move. You bring in a guy for 1.5 million.
I do
Bears. I think one thing that you can do. This isn't universal, but one thing that you can do as a fan of a certain team is if you're acquiring something, a coach, a player, is you can see the reaction of the fan base that lost that player or coach. I said that earlier with Clayton Adams. Cardinals fans were, really pissed off about losing him. Bears fans love Sanborn, and I think Sanborn is someone that honestly I could see this guy not at all saying this would happen, but I could see this guy being a failed guy that turns into a formidable starter, and not necessarily. I guess he's not a failed guy. He was a free agency guy, someone that wasn't supposed to be anything, developed every year, and he could become a formidable enough starter. And You could have a starter in that. You have Kenneth Murray that you traded for. I think him with Eberflus, because you got to note with Eberflus, the DC, his game is coaching linebackers. He knows how to. That's what he was, because many years ago, well, not many years ago, a decade ago, he was the linebackers coach for Dallas. He goes to the Colts, be their DC, goes to the Bears to be their head coach. Comes back to Dallas to be the DC. Dallas actually wanted him back as the DC, but he didn't want to step on the toes of Callahan back in the day, who was the DC. But
Marinelli, wasn't it?
Callahan, man, I'm drawing a blank.
Ron Marinelli.
Marinelli. Never mind, not Callahan.
Was the DC?
So he left. Now he's back. But when he was in Dallas, Sean Lee, second round pick, developed under him. Rolando McClain, randomly, failed first round draft pick. Hey, failed first round draft pick. Hashtag Kenneth Murray. Failed first round draft pick, develops, and he actually had 1 year where he was like a fringe Pro Bowl type guy. We draft Damian Wilson, we draft Anthony Hitchens, these late round type of day 3 type of guys. They become spot starters for us. Anthony Hitchens eventually became a decent starter. Leighton Vander Esch, Jalen Smith had 1 year where they were just dominant. It was one of the best linebacker duos in the league. It was basically each of their rookie seasons. But I say that because Jalen Smith was coming off a full injury blown season. He tore his ACL his last game at Notre Dame. And that's why he slipped to. He was a second round draft pick. Dallas drafted him, waited, developed him, and then he was a monster alongside Leighton Vander Esch. That was him. So that's the reason why I have optimism for the fact that Overshown as a young guy, he'll be back hopefully mid-season because he had a serious knee injury. Maris Liufau, he showed flashes last year. You add in Jack Sanborn, you add in Kenneth Murray, you have Damone Clark as another backup piece. That's a lot of guys that have these are traitsy guys, whether it's mentally, whether it's athletically, whether it's technically. And I think I have to imagine that. I know Overshown's going to be good. Hopefully the injury doesn't halt that. But I have to imagine one of Maris Liufau, Sanborn, and Kenneth Murray. I have to imagine one of those guys is going to become a good byproduct, whether it's a great player or a good player. I got to imagine one of those comes out of that as a better player because of Eberflus. But and we lost a lot of guys. Jordan Lewis, that tore my heart out because you said he was a good nickel, dude. Last year he was fantastic. He was the only player other than Micah, because even Micah missed time, but he was the only other player on that defense because the defense was injured to hell. He was the only player that you could week in, week out rely on him having a good week. I think he was ultimately one of the better nickels, but the problem with him, look at the contract, 3 years, $30 million. He's a 30-year-old player. do you resign that? Because
Right.
he's going to be 33 at the end of that. That's a challenge. And now, obviously, I think the biggest hole in defense now is nickel, but it's a challenge to, kind of, quantify that. And then D-Law, he signed a 3-year, $42 million deal. I can't get behind that as at his age. I think he has one more year, $14
Yeah.
million play.
But you always wonder, like, just because they've been in Dallas for so long, it's like you got to wonder maybe they take a hometown discount if you
Yeah.
do offer them. So, there's questions about that. Like you said, I don't hate the Cowboys
Yeah.
offseason. I'm not a Cowboys hater by any means. Trust me, I
Mhm.
have defended the Cowboys many times.
Yeah.
Uncle's a Cowboys fan. I have no hate in my heart for Dallas as a Broncos fan because we destroy them every time we play them. But but no, it's just, there's certain questions just because they got to plug some of these holes now. And yeah,
Yeah.
they're definitely deep at linebacker and they can definitely be good at linebacker. And they definitely did shore up the run defense, which was killing them last year
Mhm.
and has been in the past. But
Yeah.
it's just, it's, I hope they succeed. It's just, I have some questions. And I feel
Yeah.
like that could be said for a lot of the teams that
Mhm.
we consider losers.
Yeah. And I'll cap off the Cowboys conversation with this because, like I said, they bolstered the depth. I think the depth went from trash and worth noting with the fact that everyone knows how injury riddled the Cowboys were on both sides of the field. The good thing, the blessing of that is you throw all of these young guys out there and now they're experienced. Now they have experience and they have not only that, they have experience when the situation is just shit, right? They know they were thrown out there and now they know how to handle more situational stuff. So maybe that helps when if Dallas goes 11-6 and makes the playoff, maybe that's something that helps them situationally. But your depth is better by default because of those injuries. But then now you added extra talent, and then obviously there's a lot of holes still. I think you need a nickel. I think you could use a really good backup defensive tackle. I think you could use some depth at edge still. I would love if they re-signed Carl Lawson. I think your biggest need is wide receiver too, and running back. I think you could use starting offensive guard. That's a lot. A backup quarterback, but depth wise, I think defensive tackle and like quarterback are your areas. But which means you have like 5 holes that you need a starter. And you don't have that much resources in the draft. But what I think they're going to do is they're going to go out there, they're going to draft the best available at each of those positions that they need. And whatever positions are still a glaring need, you're still going to have a lot of money left over because you still have 40 million in cap right now. And Dallas loves to. Their thing is we're going to sit out the free agency, we're going to play around in the post draft free agency, and I think that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to go make. I think they're going to get one starter in post draft free agency. So I think there's going to be 1 or 2 positions here where you could use another starter. You're not going to have one, but depth wise, the team's going to be in a good place, which is very nice. But you're going to be down about 2 positions, and you're just going to need. This is what you paid CD Lamb for. This is what you're going to pay Micah for. This is what you're going to pay Bland, and you already paid Dak for. So hopefully that just means that they can elevate their game and Dak and CD play like they did 2 years ago. But that's hopefully that period of my little rant there because I know I yapped a lot about it. But yeah, go ahead.
One thing that I could definitely see from just this offseason that the Cowboys have had. I know it's not ideally what you want to see from a former player talking about your franchise, but DeMarcus Lawrence's comments in his first interview with Seattle, that could be a blessing in disguise for finally.
They pissed me off, man. They actually did.
It pissed me off, but I feel like it can. All of it was directed towards all of his comments, especially on X, were directed right towards Micah.
Yeah.
Because while DeMarcus Lawrence was there, he was the leader of that locker room. And Micah's sitting back, doing a podcast, being buddy-buddy with everybody. And I hope what DeMarcus said, it's like instead of, whining and complaining on a podcast, grow up and play some ball then. Actually show up and lead a team for once.
Yeah, and the big thing that is a tell on that is everyone else backed Micah, including the guys that left. Jordan Lewis said something about it in defense of Micah. I can't remember. Even Chauncey Golston, and both of those guys left. Chauncey Golston and Jordan Lewis both left. So if they're backing Micah and they're leaving, because it's easy for Trayvon Diggs to back Micah, which he did. It's easy for a bunch of these other guys on the Cowboys currently to back Micah, but the guys that are like Overshown backed Micah, but all these
Like,
guys
you
that left backing Micah
tired?
too.
Like DeMarcus Lawrence saying we were too
Oh
tired
yeah,
for
after
the
the Packers
playoffs.
game, but
It's
yeah.
like,
So okay. Anyways,
yeah,
we're gonna flip the chapter from the Cowboys because we could have
Yeah.
a full episode. Actually, me and Pierce were like, I texted Pierce like 2 weeks ago before I left for my last trip, and I was like, hey, you want to do an episode just me and you on the Cowboys free agency? And
Yeah,
we
I'm
just
down.
couldn't find the right time. Maybe we'll still do it. We'll see. Well,
we might still have some
like I
time.
said, we have. Hopefully, we'll have like it'll be like a 2 week period, I think, where I might be available. So,
Mhm.
so we'll see. But anyways, Pierce loser number 1, and we're gonna try and pick up the pace here. So
This
because
one,
I think there's a chance we could get
Yeah.
2-2, like we were talking about.
yeah, this loser, I feel like it's out of his hands at this for this to be a loser. But drafts right around the corner. I have Shador Sanders being, I think, my number
Love
one
that.
loser because a lot of mock drafts prior to this wave of free agency this past weekend, a lot of people were seeing him possibly going to New York to be a Giant, playing at MetLife and playing for the Giants, being the league neighbors, his his QB. But after seeing that Jameis Winston contract, 2 years, um, that's sort of got me thinking that maybe they're gonna go with Winston and
Yeah.
and what it looks like maybe 3 might be Travis
They
Hunter
might
getting
just miss out. I think the Giants might just miss out on the sweepstakes. Like
exactly, yeah, because I can say again,
there's a real chance at that. Unless unless Shadir gets there, which is still possible, but then you have to quantify: do you want Shadir at 3, or do you want to trade
mhm.
back? Because they might not even want him. So
I mean
it
they
really
could
depends on
just
if they want Shadir,
yeah, I mean
which is
if you
not a
really
great
really want
situation
him,
for Shadir because if they don't want him, then there's a whole like story.
there's yeah like could he could drop all the way to like late second, early second round.
He won't fall.
Not even.
I don't think he'll fall to second because that teams are going to trade up for him.
That's true. Yeah.
I know Mark, you talked about it on the last episode. You had mocked Shadir to the Steelers, and we talked about how they either love him or they either hate him. So,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a lot of teams that love him or hate him, and I got to imagine that the Steelers is the floor because Seahawks, they're maybe they
Sad.
still want a quarterback, which
Maybe.
sucks for
Oh,
Sam
yeah.
Darnold. But and there's a number of other teams here that are going to be interested in potentially moving up for that. Maybe the Jets, maybe the Jets want to draft a quarterback, even though they just signed Justin, but you never know. So
Yeah, it just seems more likely that Shador he might not be the choice at 3 anymore. I could definitely see the Giants,
yeah,
going skill to get another receiver to pair with neighbors, or you get a staple of a Travis Hunter, because
Mhm.
it more than likely looks like it's going to be Cam Ward and Abdul Carter at 1 or 2, and then your who's who after. But I feel like with the deal with the Jameis Winston deal, it gives you I feel like it's just a fallback for the New York Giants for whatever happens in the draft for them. It's like, hey, at least we've got a guy that has starting experience. Yes, he's going to throw touchdowns, and yes, he's going to turn the ball over a lot. But
Yeah.
I just feel like that it really hurts Shador Sanders, the possibility of him being a top 3 draft pick this year.
Yeah. Okay, so like I said, I'm gonna try and pick up the pace here, so I'll just quickly roll through this one. But CJ Stroud is a loser, loses Laramie Tunsil, is the big one. And obviously Tank Dell is gonna miss a big chunk, if not the entire season.
Mm-hmm.
You get Christian Kirk, which is decent, but you're also gonna lose Diggs. You lost Diggs, even though you had him for like 5 seconds. But The offensive line is a mess, man. It's currently, here's what it looks like. You got left tackle Cam Robinson, Titus Howard at left guard. I don't think that's gonna happen. Yeah, I guess so. But Titus played tackle before, right? And I remember him being pretty good. But the fact that you bring in Cam Robinson and Trent Brown kind of tells me that you might have to bump Titus inside. But Jarrett Patterson at center, Drew Scruggs at guard, and then Trent Brown probably is going to be your right tackle. Then you have Blake Fisher, Ed Ingram, and Laken Tomlinson as depth pieces. So, hey, the depth on this offensive line is one of the best in the league. But I don't think CJ Stroud cares about that. I think he just wants to not dude. The moment that you get you get a decent defensive line. The moment you get a Philadelphia Eagles defensive line going up against this offensive line,
It's over.
CJ Stroud is actually going to he might retire. He might pull an Andrew Luck and just retire before the game, dude. Dead serious. It's
right
just
at the end.
yeah,
Oh
it's
my
gonna
gosh, dude.
yeah. But that's this offensive line is brutal, and I don't get it. Well, okay, I will note this. What I heard was a lot of sources were saying Laramie Tunsil got traded because they wanted to not only work on the skill of their O-line, but they wanted to work on the locker room aspect of their O-line. He wasn't a good group guy, is what I'm hearing, is that he didn't gel well with the guys that they had on the O-line. So they're working on rebuilding the morale in that group. But then the next question is, we have 8 guys that maybe 3 or 4 of these guys should be. It's like 2 or 3 of these guys maybe are borderline starter type guys, but you don't have anyone on this list that looks like they should be, that they were going to be an actual Pro Bowl, even fringe Pro Bowl type guy. There's no one to rely on. There's no one for CJ Stroud to be back in that pocket, and he's going to be like, oh, okay, I'll maybe shift this way a little bit to be able to, because I know that I'm going to have pressure. I won't have pressure from the interior, so it's tough for this team, and I think CJ Stroud's the main person that's going to take the fall for it, because he's going to be under pressure the entire season, which sucks because we know the amount of potential he has. But even if they draft someone, dude, it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. There's just too many C and D tier type guys on this offensive line. You need a couple B and A and B type tier guys, and they don't have, honestly, there's not a single one of them. Okay, so moving on, winner number 2. Like I said, let's fly through these. We're at 53 minutes. We could probably go for another 20 minutes, but let's fly through these a little bit more with a little bit more urgency. Winner number 1, Ayush.
Yeah. So,
or 2.
Excuse me. I chose the Los Angeles Chargers as my second winner. I think they've made some really underrated moves that could. They haven't. I wouldn't say they completely won the league yet, but if they continue this into the draft, I think they could be a really good team going into the season. Obviously, their biggest signing is Mekhi Becton, um, and then you bring in Dante Jackson as well, who I think is an interesting signing. Um, we'll see how he does for the Chargers, but he's always been kind of just mid to me. But I think it's a good addition for the Chargers because they just kind of um, need a lot of corner depth on that side of the ball there. So bringing him in, you bring in Najee Harris. I didn't realize how many of the guys were on the Steelers that they brought in, but Najee Harris comes in from the Steelers. Mike Williams they bring back. He was on the Steelers. Um, Tyler Conklin, I think, is probably the best tight end they've had in a while. He's not great, but he will get the job done. He'll kind of just play that role that you need him to play. Um, and I think the biggest thing is if Becton can keep the level of play that he kept up with on the Eagles, you pair him up with Joel on the right side. I think that could be really, really exciting for the run game, which the Chargers have been trying to get to. You lose Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, but I think their plan is to have Najee be kind of that second running back to whoever they draft in this year's draft, and they're trying to kind of build that kind of dynamic that Jameer Gibbs, David Montgomery had, or the Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon type of thing, where you have that one really elusive, pure speed guy, and the other guy be a more just put the shoulder down and get the tough yards through there, you know. So um, I think they're building something really nice, especially with that run game, alleviate some of the pressure off Joe or Justin Herbert. Um, and I could really see them put a lot of thought into the offense of the draft, both with receiver and with running back. And I think they'll probably continue to work on this O line, um, even though I think their starting group is pretty solid now. Um, but yeah, I think they put the pieces together to really be in a position to finally take the leap that I think a lot of people have been waiting for them to make. Um, this past season I think was kind of a transition period for them, bringing in Harbaugh and kind of getting that culture and just kind of that dynamic of a new system, a new uh, culture, knew everything down. And now that Harbaugh has kind of instilled his philosophy in there now during this first year, I think the second year is their opportunity to really kind of take that step forward um, and be a true contender for the playoffs.
Mark?
My second winner. I know Pierce said Shadur was his first loser. I'm going to flip the script and go Cam Ward as my second winner because I think the Titans made a lot of moves in free agency that kind of point to him being the first overall pick. I know they got rid of Harold Landry, which kind of puts them in the market for an edge rusher, especially one of Abdul Carter's, caliber, but the quarterback situation is not great. I know Will Levis kind of picked it up. He wasn't I don't think he was as bad as some people think, but he definitely was not a starting caliber quarterback.
Do you
They got
think
rid of
they
Mason.
keep Will Levis? If
Uh,
because I don't know if Will Levis is a great backup for your young quarterback. Like
yeah,
in terms of is he a good morale guy for him? I feel like he'd be a
yeah.
little harsh,
It's weird because I last I heard there were some trade rumors around him that they might be shopping him. I
Yeah.
saw that somewhere. But yeah, it kind of points to Cam Ward being the first overall pick,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, that's big money for him. That's really good for him. He's definitely a talented guy, and he could definitely help the Titans win more games than they did to get the first overall pick. But I don't know. It's weird. This whole draft is weird. We've talked about it. This whole free agency was weird, and again, we said was kind of just teams trying to supplement themselves to not back themselves into a corner in the draft, which I think the Titans did kind of well. But I still think that all signs kind of point to Cam Ward here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't believe they Dan Moore robbed them, dude. That dude robbed them in broad daylight.
Yeah,
So shout out to him, bro.
yeah,
Dude,
look,
his agent is that's a dude right there. That's a dude.
I
I'm
need to look
sorry
at
if
who
I'm
it
Micah
is.
Parsons, I'm calling that guy up. So
Yeah, let me see because now I'm actually interested.
it was 82 for 4 years
Yeah,
or something was it
yeah,
even
no,
4 years? It may have been 3 years.
no, it was 4. It was
4?
4
Okay.
years. I just want to see who his agent
Really
is, but it's
crazy.
not telling me.
Yeah.
They also brought in Kevin Zeitler too. I forgot about that.
Yeah. It does look like they're building for a quarterback.
Yeah,
And
Cam
I mean the
Ward.
money because you mentioned Harold Landry walking. That dude took a big contract for the Patriots. He took 15 was it 15 million a year or something? It was pretty nasty.
it
And
was.
so they basically
Yeah, about
used
15
that money and paired it with a couple bucks that they had and went and got Dan Moore and Zeitler. You build the O line. The O line looks decent. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean
Oh, and they brought in Brandon Allen too. Yeah, I think Will Levis is almost as good as gone with that move because Brandon Allen's the backup. He was in
Yeah.
San Francisco backing up Purdy, and yeah, I think Will Levis. There's a good chance he's on the move on draft day or pretty close to it.
What if the Giant, if we were talking about the Giants, maybe not going and getting, what if they end up with the quarterback situation? I think Will Levis, or hang on, let me rephrase what I just said. I think they may end up looking at a vet instead of Shadir. You never know. Maybe they want to use that number 3 towards building the roster, work at a quarterback next year.
It's
Will
possible.
Levis is built for the New York Lights, so not saying that he'll play good under them, but he has a personality for it. So I wonder if they'll just be like, hey, I mean, you want to get rid of him? I mean, I think the Titans aren't looking for a big haul. I don't think they're looking for some like 4th-round pick. I feel like they may just be like, hey, I'll give you a 6th-round draft pick. Give me Will Levis, and job is done. So
I was also thinking about our conversation last week in the Steelers. That could be a good spot.
yeah, I again though, it does not concern. It piques my interest if the personality matches up.
Yeah.
But we were talking about the big,
Mhm.
Largely built physical type of quarterbacks. I think in terms of what he can bring to the table, not saying he's going to be a good player, but in terms of his archetype, I think he fits there. We'll see about the rest though.
Top tier meme ability as well, which Steelers seem to
Exactly. Dude, the sales, you get the ketchup sales and you get the mayo sales, dude.
Exactly.
There you go. Pittsburgh, dude, business is going to be booming in Pittsburgh. That economy is going to take off.
The condiment economy.
Yeah. What is Jaden Smith say? Says, let's talk about the economic state of the world.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do next episode. So we're already talking about mayo and mustard and the economy in the world. That's what we're gonna do next episode. Screw all the draft stuff. We're talking about the economy. So okay. Pierce, next loser or next winner.
The next winner, I was gonna go Patriots, but I'm gonna whittle it down even deeper. There's been a lot, and I mean a lot of smoke for Joe Milton, possible landing spots. Since we were talking, you just brought up the New York Giants. There could be a chance that they're probably trying to make a swing for Joe Milton to be their guy. Draft
Steelers,
draft
dude.
like
I'm telling Steelers, man.
Like Joe Milton's about to find himself in in an area where he can start day one. Because there are a lot of teams that
there's
are building.
Chance, yeah.
Oh, for sure. And they're showing videos on social media of him throwing an absolute bomb from the 25 to the other 10, stuff like that. Like I really can see Joe Milton finding himself in a situation where he's on a team. Like I'm hearing Cowboys rumors that he's probably going to be the backup. He'll be traded to Dallas. But I'd say if I'm Joe, I'm trying to stay far away from being a backup. I want to go play. So Pittsburgh, New York Giants, like those two could be the biggest options of like, man.
Yeah, he could. I mean, he could be in a position where he could compete. I don't think he'll be in a position where he's gonna like earn a spot, but I could see him going somewhere that he could get a chance to go and compete, kind of like what with Will Levis, where you go somewhere and you're probably gonna be a backup, but you have a 10% chance of starting, which is good for them. So
I mean, I really could say like the New York Giants as a whole could be, the winners of not of free agency, but can find a way to they could get a Travis Hunter to pair with Levis or to pair with Neighbors. They have their fallback of an option of in case they do swing for a Joe Milton trade, and he doesn't fit, work out at first. You can go to the James Winston and have your your QB for the time being. But yeah, I feel like Joe Milton is going to find himself at a place where he can compete with a vet, or find himself, in Pittsburgh where he can be the guy to, take the reins for a Pittsburgh team that needs a QB.
Yep. Okay, my second winner is cornerbacks. Derek Stingley signed a 3-year, $90 million deal, something like that. So he's making $30 million a year. We talked about it earlier, but corner's a harder position than wide receiver. Easy peasy. Like that's not even a question. You are reacting to something. Wide receiver, you get to do what you want to do, and you can, you obviously you run a route or there's an option route, yada yada yada, but you get the opportunity to you can vary your release package. You keep that defender relative to what you're doing, whereas the defender, the cornerback, is having to follow what that wide receiver does. They don't get any decisions. They have to react. And because of that position's a lot harder. And for some reason, they're a lot behind financially. And we know how valuable corners are. In my opinion, I think the most valuable positions go quarterback, maybe left tackle, maybe a 7 tech, so kind of a 7 or 5 tech purebred defensive end, and then your cornerback. And those latter three are kind of whatever it fits your system. But so that's a very valuable position, and for some reason financially it hasn't been credit is accorded accordingly. So this is a big deal for that cornerback, and I'll say the word economy. The economics of that position are better than ever because of that. And even though Jamar Chase just signed a $40 million deal annually, and they're still about 10 million ahead. I think Derek Stingley getting the cornerback position past that 30 million mark is good for that position. So especially since we're going to have a Deron Bland deal soon. We were talking about that earlier. That we're going to have a Sauce Gardner. We're going to have a when's Pat Surtain do? Or did he already? He got one last year, right?
He got one last year.
What was his?
He's at 24 annually for.
Yeah.
40.
Dang.
Yeah,
He's
it's
underpaid
a
for
That's a deal, dude.
It's a steal.
Dude,
Good for the Broncos, man.
Telling you, man, George Payton. He got a lot of flack for the rush trade, but that man can construct a contract.
Dude, that's pretty wild. And then well, and then also, I mean, JC Horn's getting $25 million a year now. He just signed that deal, and I think that was a good deal there too, because I've talked about it before. You look at the contract when it's all said and done. When after the 4 or 5 years that contract takes, if he is being paid top 10 quarterback money and he's still a top 10 corner, then I think that's when you kind of are able to fully evaluate what that deal is worth. But yeah, I think this was a good sign for cornerbacks, and hopefully it continues to get better. And worth noting, so who are our best wide receivers in the game right now? Like Chase, Jefferson, Lamb, AJ Brown, Tyreek Hill. I mean, Nico's up there now. DK, Amon-Ra St. Brown. All these guys have gotten paid now. So I don't think next year we're going to get another market resetting. I can't think of someone who would get a market resetting deal. So that gives corners is, like I said, they're going to have a lot. You have Bland, you have Sauce, you have, I guess, Bland and Sauce, and then there's a couple others sprinkled in there. But that's pretty favorable for that position because now they can play a little bit of catch up here. So that's good for that position. Okay. Moving forward, we're at an hour and 8 minutes. So let's see if we can knock this out in like the next 10, 15 minutes. But Yush, loser number 2.
I went with the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not sure exactly what they're trying to do in terms of where they're trying to go as a team, honestly. They let go of a lot of guys. Some of them made sense. I honestly didn't like the Evan Ingram release. I know his money was a little expensive, but he was the second best receiving option on that team for the Jaguars after Brian Thomas. Trevor Lawrence really liked him as a target, I think, and they had a really good rapport together. And I don't think that was the right decision to let him go. I know he's not really a true stereotypical tight end, but I think he really fit well with Trevor Lawrence. They brought in Diami Brown on a 1-year, $10 million deal. I think $10 million is a little rich for a guy like Diami Brown. I know he had a really good kind of resurgence this past season with the Commanders, but 10 mil is a little rich for me. Same thing with Jordan Lewis. I know y'all were praising him a little earlier, but I think he's either, I don't think he's the most expensive slot corner, but he's like up there.
He is. That was. Actually, hang on. Actually, hang on. I think he signed that deal. He was, and then someone like
Nate Hobbs
literally
might
like
got
2
might have gotten
hours.
more.
Does Nate play in the slot? Because someone like
Yeah,
2
Nate
hours
Hobbs
later
does.
got a okay. Then it was probably him. Someone like 2 hours later signed a contract and they passed him up as the highest paid nickel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but well, I mean the problem is his age because financially he is one of the best nickels in the game. But he's old, man. He's 30.
Yeah,
So he's
3 years,
31.
30
So
mil is. It's. I don't really know what they're trying to do. Honestly, they
yeah.
brought in 2 more tight ends after letting Ingram go, but Johnny Munt and Hunter Long aren't really going to do much at all for you. Um, they have someone else at tight end, and I'm just blanking on his name right now. But and then yeah, I mean it's just a bunch of like moves that just don't really make much sense to me. I know like everyone's new there this year with Cohen and the 12-year-old at GM, but it's just it's a lot of confusing stuff, and I'm not sure like what their mindset is for the road ahead in terms of are they going for kind of a short-term reset, rebuild type of thing, or are they really trying to get into a position to start winning now? Because like Patrick McCarry, I think was a really solid signing for him for the O line. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's just a lot of question marks for me. Maybe it'll work out for him, but overall, I think it's just a kind of wait and see with the Jaguars. But as of now, I'm leaning to where it feels like that it was not much good that was done for him in terms of roster rebuilding. For
I
the
think this
Bears.
is Gladstone, the new GM. I think this is him saying, "I'm going to do it my way." I think this is
Yeah.
him saying, "Like, hey, I'm here, and
So
I'm gonna do what I want." And
I think
obviously, you make a lot of problems with this team by getting rid of a couple of pass catchers, Christian Kirk, uh, and
yeah,
Evan Ingram.
definitely.
But I think what he's saying is that I can get rid of them. I'll clear up the books, and then I'll just draft my own guys. And I think he's trying to make those homegrown type of guys. Obviously, Jordan Lewis is a little contradictory to that, but Diami Brown himself, that's a young guy too. So I think that I agree. That was a little bit expensive, but I do think he has some upside. But I think what he's going to go out there and do is I'm pretty confident that they're going to be interested in getting a tight end. I don't think like first round, but I think that they're going to try and get like a true Y. They want a Y. They don't want an F. Uh, which is what Evan Ingram was. I personally am like cool with him getting rid of Ingram. I know his repertoire with T Law was pretty good, but I want them to go get a true inline type of tight end that can actually block. Do a little bit more of the true tight end type of stuff. I think that's going to be pretty beneficial for them, especially since their running game was a little weird last year because it wasn't like bad statistically, but Travis Etienne was supposed to be this dude and he was not. And then when it was all said and done, Tank Bigsby was almost better than him at the end of the year. So,
Sold my
uh,
fantasy season, bro.
yeah. But I think what
Yeah,
they're
we
going
were
to try and
talking
do
about.
is,
My bad. Go ahead.
I think they're just going to try and get a true tight end, play some more uh, 12 personnel type sets, and really work on paving lanes for those running backs. So.
Yeah, you were talking about how the new GM Gladstone is doing things his way, and
Yeah.
it made me think about the last time that I saw a GM do things his way. It was the most traumatic experience of my life. Hashtag Nico Harrison. But so that just
Why'd you bring that up?
you made me think about it. That's why I brought it
Dude.
up. But yeah, so
Ruined my day,
well,
bro.
it's
so
always on the
sad we
back of
all
my
have to
mind,
go
man.
through
I haven't
that.
been happy since February 1st, bro.
Dude, with us,
Why?
like me, Ayush, and
Why?
Alec in that chat, because we still have us three have a chat that we've had for 5 years now.
Something like
It
that.
was our original offsides chat for us three. Dude, every 2 weeks, one of us is like, we traded Luca. I can't believe we traded Luca. And it's mind you, it's March. It's been 2 months since then. And like 2 days ago, like Alec was like, dude, we traded Luca. Like a couple days before that, I was like, man, Luca's gone. Dude,
Yeah.
we
It
throw
doesn't make
fits in
any
that chat.
It's hard to blame you. That trade was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Now he's putting up 20-point quarters, and we got
The
Anthony Davis just
best.
played 3 quarters.
It cursed us, dude. It cursed us. We're to the point. I don't know if like y'all have noticed this, but we have like 7 or 8 active guys. We have a couple guys that their like contracts are about to
running out
expire.
of
We're gonna
games. Yeah.
dude, we're about to have like 6 guys that are healthy and on the roster.
And can't you not
It's
even
crazy.
sign more too?
Can't even sign
We
people.
No.
We're over the first apron. Yeah.
So how does that work? Is there a rule like or can we play or can we
You
say
have
like
to
we're
have-
gonna
You have to have at least 8 guys dress out. If you don't, you have to. You are probably going to be forced to forfeit games.
Oh, so we actually might be
I
in
think
that
we'll be okay,
situation.
'cause I
Sid.
think
Kessler Edwards, one of our 2-way guys, sat out last night because he only has 1 game left in his 2-way deal.
Okay.
Other than that,
That's
he's
what I
being
mean,
sent
yeah.
back to the G League. They've sent Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, and AD to the G League, to Texas
League.
Legends, to get some playing in. They're going to probably play in some games soon. So hopefully within the
I think
next,
they just do it for practice. I don't know if they're playing.
yeah,
in
they're
the
there for
game.
practice time. But if they're able to go within the next week or so,
I
maybe,
think-
because AD
Gotcha.
has been telling them, I'm not sitting out the rest of the season. If there's a chance that I'm playing, I'm playing. But
Nico cursed. Dude, he cursed us, man.
I've seen this, and the type of weather that Texas is getting as a whole. Like, there's been a lot of west wind with dust.
Yep.
Someone, I kid you not, posted out, said, we're a week removed or a month removed from the Luka trade. We're going through the 10 plagues like the Bible over here.
Yeah.
Like, we're getting dust storms. We're getting, like, people are down bad. Like,
Yeah.
we're having friggin' Devin Booker saying, yeah, the mood of the cities is totally different every time I go there. I'm like, yeah. Like, we've got a
stupid,
president,
too,
we've got a
'cause-
governor sitting there going, are they booing me in the middle of games? Like,
Yeah, dude. And it doesn't help that it's not like the Cowboys or some A-tier organization. So
I thought
Um,
Jerry Jones pulled the trigger on that trade. That's how bad
Yeah.
it was.
yeah.
My condolences as a Grizzlies fan. I'm so sorry for y'all.
Yeah, the Grizzlies
All
are
right,
still
I'm done
playing.
talking about it. Nope, I can't talk about it anymore.
We're done talking about it. Cut it off.
All right,
I'm done.
Mark, you're up next. Loser number 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with another NFC East squad, and it's the Philadelphia Eagles. I know they just won the Super Bowl, so kind of riding off that high. They lost some key players that were very big catalysts for them winning that Super Bowl in general. Josh Sweat had a case for Super Bowl MVP. I think Milton Williams did too. Lost Mekhi Becton, but obviously Jeff Stoutland is a god at developing offensive linemen, so I feel like that's not even going to hurt them that much, but still a solidified starter. They brought in some guys that I like. Azeez Ojulari on a 1-year $4 million deal. Josh Uche on a 1-year little less than $2 million deal, which I think is crazy. So they have some guys to kind of fill that pass rush void, but they're rotational guys, and they'll be alongside Jalix Hunt. And I just, it's hard to lose the kind of caliber players that they did. I know how good they are at drafting and developing talent, but even still, having those established veterans and even Brandon Graham retiring just the other day, it's going to hurt them a bit. It will. I don't think they'll. I mean, it's not going to be crazy in terms of how bad they take a hit, but I think in the long term, it's going to hurt them a bit.
Pierce.
I got the San Francisco 49ers. They've lost pretty much every single one of their starters underneath the sun. You got Chadarius Ward. You got, I can't say his last name, the safety signing with Denver.
Funga.
I got you,
Yeah.
Talanoa
Funga.
Hufanga,
Greenlaw.
my
Funga.
goat.
There you go. There you go.
Funga, Dre Greenlaw. Like, they've lost every one of their
Debo.
big name. Debo Samuel. I mean, I feel like they were done with him at the beginning of the season.
They lost a
anyway.
couple offensive line starters too, right?
Mhm.
Dude,
They've
they lost
some
so much.
starters. They've got friggin' tendonitis knees in the backfield with McCaffrey still, but you've got Greenlaw gone. You've got your best corner gone. You've got your safeties are gone. Hargrave's gone. Malik Collins is gone. So like they have every hole.
Oh, Leonard Floyd too. Leonard Floyd,
leaving,
which
as
is a
well.
10 sack type of guy every year, or
Mhm.
10 sack type of guy.
They're in a lot of. They have a lot of needs coming
Yeah.
up in this draft.
I think they're going to be kind of like, I mean, obviously they went through their own depth problems last year, but I think they're going to be kind of like Dallas was last year, where you just you are so dependent on the health of your stars, and if not, then you're kind of cooked.
You are,
And especially now,
Because go ahead.
and especially now with the Purdy contract potentially coming up,
Oh, yep.
it's rough.
I think 11, because they're drafting at 11. I think that's going to be the one like spot where I think that's going to be a big checkpoint in the draft, because literally anything can happen. Literally, because and I say that because what if, in theory, Purdy's one of those guys where you kind of wonder where he stands in the hierarchy, because he's someone like a couple years ago he was an MVP finalist, but he's someone he just feels like he's a good type of guy. But honestly, I feel like he's more in that Geno Smith type of range, where he's a good guy, he'll dish it out, he'll do his job, but you almost kind of wonder what if things go south on that contract, and now all of a sudden, in some twisted world, Shadir could be there, but you need a. I think wide receiver is maybe the one position you don't need to worry about in day 1 or 2, because you still have Jennings, you have Pearsall, you have Ayuk. But you need maybe not a backup running back. You need offensive line, you need defensive line, you need linebacker, you need corner, you need safety, and you need depth everywhere. What's up?
They lost Jordan Mason, so they do need running back.
But I will say I think Arendo is really good. I think Arendo's going to be a really good backup for him. So that's why I wonder. And Elijah Mitchell left, right? He left this offseason too.
Yeah, Kansas City.
That's right. So, yeah. Actually, no, yeah, you're right. That could be a sneaky move. But
right here with Pacheco.
Yeah, they're that's an interesting little situation to monitor, because obviously, like, we're not talking about some like team that's in the playoffs and they're just a good team. Like, this is one of the teams. Like, they've kind of helped shape how these seasons have gone on a year by year basis. Them, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bills, I guess the Lions more recently, but those are the teams that those are the top of the top, and now we might be witnessing the fall of them, especially with even still they're beyond the fact that they lost a ton of guys, dude. Trent Williams, Chris McCaffrey, they're going to be replaceable soon. Like, they're old. These guys have 1 or 2 years in them, and they might not even, like, they could start to fall apart this year. George Kittle is I think he's about to pass the 30. I think he actually is 30 right now. This team is getting old, and it's Fred Warner's. I think Fred's got to be about 30. So all those guys were about to become guys that you're drafting to replace them early, too. So you have about, like, if you go out there and if they had 5 first-round draft picks on deck, they still would have some holes. So that's dangerous for them. And I almost wonder if it really is just better to say goodbye to Purdy and go draft a guy that I've said in the past he could probably play a very much Purdy-like role in Shadir Sanders. So, but that's probably very unlikely, but heavy speculation there. All right, and then so last one, Saints is my pick for losers. Saints are such a weird team because I feel like they always are a vibrant team in the offseason, but they never do anything that's like truly pivotal to their team. They're like, oh yeah, maybe this guy is like could go out there and put up some good numbers for us, but they're never actually like guys that are actually going to be building blocks for this team. Derek Carr turned down a pay cut. He's making $40 million a year. I don't get it with this team, because Kellen Moore is also the type of coach where you want a lot of toys. He actually doesn't have a ton of toys with this team, in my opinion, because I mean, you can say there's a lot of guys you can do cool things with, like Taysom Hill, obviously, but Alvin Kamara is getting a little bit older. Obviously, he's still very productive. Maybe you can squeak out one more year of him being a very good player. Olave has brain damage. Brandon Cooks is at the end of his days. Rashid Shaheed is fast, but he can't do too much else. That's you just put him at that Z and you make him run 50 yards downfield every single time. That's one of those players that where the 40 really, really does matter. But he doesn't have a lot of toys here. So I got to imagine that they're going to try and work on that as well. You bring back Jawan Johnson. But honestly, I think Jawan was one of those guys where you should just let him walk and replace him. I don't think because that feels like a band-aid for now. It feels like a band-aid where you're just like, okay, he'll be okay at tight end. But what you're really looking for is someone that's really capable there. Like you have one of the worst starting quarterbacks in the league. You have a bad tight end situation, in my opinion. The offensive line is decent. On paper, Fuaga is going to take off this year. Eric McCoy, Cesar Ruiz, like you have a lot of young guys here. You're really still banking on a couple of these guys taking off, but the wide receiver room's okay. I mean, Olave is good. I think Olave should be just a high level wide receiver too, but unfortunately, not the case. Rashid Shaheed's good. Brandon Cooks is older. The depth chart's okay. The depth behind them is okay, but they really need a war daddy at wide receiver. You need a top dog at tight end. You need a replacement at running back because I think they wanted that in Kendre Miller. I don't think Kendre Miller's all that. I think he's good. I don't think he's going to be someone that's worth waiting 2-3 years for him to come out of the woodworks and then expect him to become some 2,000-yard receiver. I don't think he's going to be that. Or running back. And you still have holes on the offensive line. This offense as a whole is messy. The defense is going to be good this year, but you draft Kellen Moore hoping that you have the tools for him to be able to go out there and exceed and be creative. He doesn't have all the tools, in my opinion. He doesn't have the quarterback for it. He doesn't have the weapons. So I don't like. Yeah, I just don't like this team. I guess that's usually the case, but this is a weird team. Shout out the OC though, Doug Nussmeier. We went to school with his son, Garrett Nussmeier, who is QB1 at LSU. But or I guess we, as in me and Ayush, went to school with him. But and I went to school with him too at LSU. So, but
I still can't believe that he's older than me, and he's a grade
Nuss,
younger.
yeah, he's older than me too by like 3 days. I think his birthday is like 3 days before me. So, but yeah, he's because he was a grade behind us, but it was because I mean, when
classified or something.
yeah, well he moved a lot because of his dad, so he just went school to school, and all the age ranges kind of vary with those schools. So, but yeah, so that's everything we got, right? But definitely an interesting free agency period. We talked about it last week. It was underwhelming in the sense that we didn't get a lot of the blockbuster type stuff. There wasn't a lot of young guys. I use the Milton Williams reference where they're in their mid-20s. They have a lot of potential. Their potential hasn't even been met yet. They have a proven track record and they're worth a bunch of money. We didn't have a lot of those guys this year, especially given another thing that kind of waters it down is quarterbacks. Not a lot of fun there. Just, all we're getting there is wash guys. Kirk Cousins is in the conversation still. I don't know who's going to bite on that. I think Pierce talked about that earlier. Russ is still there, Aaron Rodgers, but a lot of vets, a lot of older guys still available, and Stephon Diggs and Keenan Allen. I think is Von Miller still out there? I think Von might be.
Yeah, he's still out there.
So you got a lot of veteran guys, but not a large list of exciting, explosive type of guys. So just a weird free agency cycle, especially comparative to what we saw last year and a couple years before that. But yeah, so I think, that's going to wrap it up for us. We'll be back. Like I said, I'm going to be out of town for a little bit, and then hopefully we'll be back in the war room here in maybe a week, maybe a little bit less, hopefully, if things go right. But we'll see. And Yeah. All right. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for us in the war room. Please, like I said earlier, if you guys could like or reshare our shows, that would be fantastic. Obviously, we want to get as many ears and eyes on our show as possible. We think that we are pretty good with our sports knowledge. I would say I'll speak for y'all. So we'd love to share it with y'all, and we'd love to hear from y'all too. So we're trying to see if we can get maybe more of a live chat going, but we're working on that. But yeah, appreciate the support and the listenership of those who do listen. And we will see you guys next time.